Hignett corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stuart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises. It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Rovers have taken the lead. Charlie Mulgrew scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the championship.
Hello, Rovers fans, and welcome back to our show. We're here for pre-match for Blackburn versus Norwich at Ewood Park. I am joined by Ryan Hildred, Luke Kimberley, and Alex Lomax, who really coolly just kind of unmuted themselves as I said their name. Then it was like that was pre-planned or something. That was ace. Be sure to get involved, like we said in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on today's game. Really tough one against some tough opposition, and we know Norwich have been in the Premier League quite recently, so we've got some really interesting talking points to go through. I'm going all out and trying my best today to host and do technical side on my own. So if we have any technical issues, bear with us. Quite a few of you have joined us already, so be sure to leave a comment. And before we do get things underway, of course, we would like to remind you that we are proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Okay, so we're going to be starting with our preferred 11s for today's game. We're going to go through what we've all gone for and why we've gone for it, and pick out a couple of players that we want to talk about before we move on to an interesting conversation about Mr. Stuart Downing, who we thought we'd talk about today. So let us know your thoughts on our 11s and let us know who you'd want to see today. We're going to start with Ryan first, who's going to talk us through his team.
Yeah, I've gone for Amari Bell at left back today. He's obviously had his critics this season, but I must say Barry Douglas. I've not seen the Barry Douglas who I thought I'd see this season. I think he's not hit the heights that he possibly did at Wolves and at Leeds, and I don't know if he's carrying a little injury or carrying a knock. I think he certainly was against Brentford, and it's just mainly to just freshen the side up today and give Douglas a rest, get Bell in there, and Norwich have got some pacey, tricky midfield options that are going to be breaking those lines and driving forward. And Amari Bell's got the pace to keep up with those. So just freshening it up at left back. I've gone for Bell over Douglas just to, as I say, just give us another option there today.
Yeah, I think defence is going to be the main area, isn't it? With Ben Brereton out, and obviously we know Bradley Dacker's been out for a long time. I think with Elliott and Armstrong, that front three at the minute kind of chooses itself for most people. It is that defensive area. What is it about Amari Bell that people struggle with, and what is it about Barry Douglas that makes them so different, Ryan?
Yeah, so I think Amari Bell will probably be the first to admit himself that maybe defensively he's not as strong as Nyambi on the other side, for example, and other defenders at this level. But he's certainly got in his locker the ability to dribble, the ability to drive forward. And I don't know if sometimes he's feeling underconfident, because when he does it, he's really good at doing it. You just want to see more of him driving forward as an attacking fullback. In terms of what Barry Douglas brings, undoubtedly he brings experience at this level, and undoubtedly he brings a set-piece delivery, although I did notice against Bristol City, Harvey Elliott and Joe Rothwell seemed to be taking them and not him, so that was quite funny. But yeah, Douglas just appears, he's a bit more solid, isn't he? But he's certainly not as quick as Amari Bell. And I think certainly down the right-hand side, players can get the other side of Douglas. And if he is carrying a little knock, he's obviously going to be, not as quick as he usually is either. So they are two different left-backs. But I think it's an opportunity for Bell today if Mowbray did want to go that way and if Douglas is injured.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a good question here from Ollie James, which I'll put on the screen. Does Lenihan and Ayala at the back work together, and should we persist with those two and hope that they start clicking? Ryan, what do you think on that? You've obviously gone for those two at the back together in front of Kaminski. Do you think that can work?
We've looked at it in detail, haven't we, on the show about how those two are paired up, and Ayala's natural position is in that right centre-back position with Lenihan. I think Ayala against Brentford last week had his watershed moment with Rovers. That was the performance I wanted to see from Ayala, and that might be the one that gives him the confidence to be in our back line. On paper, Ayala and Lenihan should be the two centre-backs. So that's why I've gone for those two today. So it should work. Obviously, we've just not seen it work as we want to yet. Just another element to the defensive side as well. You know, if we have got Amari Bell, that's why I've got Sam Gallagher on that left up there for a bit of work rate down that left-hand side as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll move on to Alex's team now. Let us know your thoughts on Ryan's team and tell us why he's horribly wrong. Or why you think he's horribly right. Alex, let's have a look at yours. Talk us through it. What's the thinking here?
I think I'm on a similar line of thought to Ryan, really, in terms of freshening things up. It may be a bit of recency bias from Wednesday night, where although the performance I thought was pretty good, and our performances overall this season have been pretty good in most games, really, it just looked like we were missing that just little bit of stardust on the top just to get those points. And I really thought, God, where do you freshen this team up? And then you look at the defence and say, well, we don't really have any other options, to be honest, maybe only in the left-back position. And then I really thought, well, the forwards can't misfire as badly as they did on Wednesday night. So I want to kind of shake up the midfield a bit. And I thought I'll talk about Davenport in a bit more detail, I think.
Yeah,
it's obviously well documented.
Tell us about Davenport then. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting choice. He's not had many starts for Rovers, and I don't think many people will probably be thinking of him when they think of a starting 11 for a home game like this. What's the thought process there, and what does he bring to the team?
The thing about Davenport is we really don't know what he brings on a consistent basis because we've not really seen him play. That I will admit to that. The simple fact is that he hasn't played enough minutes consistently enough for us to really guarantee that he can actually do this on a permanent basis. And you might say, well, that's not a convincing answer, but I think nonetheless it is true. He just, whether it be injury, whether it be options in front of him in Travis, when he was fit, there's always seemed to be a bit of an obstacle in his way. And I think the thing about Davenport, I will say, is that every time he's come on as sub, he's looked more than capable. I know you could caveat that by saying, well, at Preston, you know, the game was effectively won and he was just popping balls around and Preston were almost in damage limitation mode. But I think it would be a good game to see what he is capable of. I know you might say, oh, well, we're playing a very good side today, but I thought Bradley Johnson on Wednesday night, I did pick him in my preferred 11, but I thought of all the players, he may have been a bit off the pace after that heroic performance on Saturday at Brentford. I thought he maybe dipped below his usual levels this season, and for that reason, I've looked to freshen things up a bit.
Okay, Luke, we'll move on to your team here, which isn't really your team. We've kind of Jacob's team, really, but you're throwing in today. So we did kind of discuss before we came on air, though, that you had some thoughts on Tyrese Doan anyway. So talk to us about this lineup and what you see there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I do want to comment on the back two as well, given that partnership with Iola and Lenihan, given the question. I would like to see Iola fill in at right centre-back today and just see how Lenihan, fares at left centre-back. Mostly, my reasoning for that is that Iola hasn't played a lot of football, so it'd be good for Iola to be in a comfortable position. And Lenihan, I think, just based on games recently, he's just got a little bit more experience under Mowbray in this team, and I just think maybe he can fare a little bit better, and just allow Iola to just grow into this 11 a little bit. Thinking, Dolan, that bit of pace, it's nothing. I actually would have gone with someone like Dolan today. When you look at the quality of Norwich, especially that left-hand side, you've got, on their right-hand side, so to speak, they've got Aarons, who's a quality full-back, sought after by big Premier League clubs. Barcelona were chipping away at him at one point as well, weren't they? There was all sorts of talk. How he's still a Norwich player, I don't know, because he is a quality player at this level. So for me, I think if we've got someone like Dolan there just to run at that back line early doors, just put the frighteners on and hopefully if we can get a bit of early joy, and then we can settle down and let our midfield three take a foothold on the game and get a bit more control on it. So Dolan for me, I think, could be key if he was to get a place in that 11 today, as well as Elliott, just run at the fullbacks and really cause some early trouble, because Norwich are a good side. So if we allow them to play today, it could be a difficult 90 minutes, but we're more than capable.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we are capable. I think it's about managing expectations against a strong side like that. So this is the team that I've gone for. Again, kind of like last week, I've kind of booked the trend with formation. I think that we will keep seeing this 4-2-2-2 kind of thing with Rothwell and Elliott in very free roles. I went for Downing over Holtby today. And I also slotted Williams in. I think it's crucial that you have a left footer at left centre back. I think in terms of ball playing, I think the reason Scott Wharton did so well there is because of that left foot more than anything. And as much as I do like Ayala, I see him more as the rotation between him and Darragh for that right centre back slot, really. And I wouldn't want either of them playing at left centre back if we can avoid it. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about Downing and Holtby because I think they're quite similar players, and I think it would be fair to say that Holtby has perhaps had an average couple of weeks, maybe after a decent start to the season. Perhaps struggling with a bit of a knock. Maybe he's not started a game. He's come off quite early in another game. And we haven't seen much of Stuart Downing. So we're going to go into a bit of detail on Downing soon. But if you want to leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Lewis Holtby, do you think that he needs a bit of a rest, or do you think that he's crucial to the way we play? And can Downing step up into that Holtby role? So we've got a bit of a graphic on Stuart Downing, which is his stats from last year, which shows you, I mean, he made 41 appearances for us, which out of a 46-game league season is a lot of football for a 36-year-old. And he did really well for us. I mean, if you look at some of his statistics there for the whole of the championship at his age, it's pretty impressive. And we did rely on him for huge swathes of last season. So, Luke, I'm just going to start with you on this. Do you think that Stuart Downing can do what Holtby does, or do we need to stay persistent with Holtby and hope that he pulls through?
Holtby's a great player, and what we've seen from Holtby this year is a player that's really flourishing in a deep lying playmaking role. He's holding that position, but the way he sprays the ball, the way he finds a pass, it's been pivotal to how we've been breaking fast when we haven't had Holtby in the team. It's really slowed our play down. There was a particular game when we had that sort of double pivot and Tom Tribal. I just remember him picking up the ball, and it's no disrespect to Tom Tribal, but he doesn't think how Lewis Holtby thinks, and you notice in games like that how our play was a lot slower not having Lewis Holtby. Now, when we're talking about Stuart Downing, who's a veteran of the game, he's an experienced head. He's played with great players at great clubs. Obviously, I mean, you look at that graphic, it shows where he was playing for us last season, mostly out wide. And one thing that did shock me with Stuart Downing is that he's still got that yard of pace. He's obviously not as fast as he was, in his 20s, but he's not slow. And the way he worked the wide areas for us last season was, it was quite impressive for a man of his age. You just assume that someone of Stuart Downing's age is a little bit slower. So that did shock me. So, I mean, and he's got an engine. He doesn't really fatigue. Like I say, when he was working them wide areas last season, he was doing it for 90 minutes, and he was one of our most consistent players across 90 minutes, across all the games, and 41 appearances says it all. I think he can quite capably sit in and do the Holtby role, and I think he can do it well. He can do it over 90 minutes, hopefully. I know we haven't seen that from Downing yet, but I mean, his passing ability, his ability to pick a man out. We've likened him in the past to James Milner for his versatility, and I have no no questions of his ability to just sit in there and do a cracking job. He's a good player, and we're fortunate to have him.
Just thinking back, Ryan, to the Millwall game. I mean, from where I was sitting, I thought that Stuart Downing had a really crucial role in that winner at home to Millwall. And, he kind of provided that, having barely been on the pitch. Do you think that outside of a debate over whether Holtby is more crucial to the side, I mean, as Michael Pearson suggests here, he's crucial in terms of tempo, retention and vision, and Downing's a fine backup option. Does Stuart Downing, after 41 games last year and after doing okay in his appearances this year, deserve a chance to say, let me have a go?
He's earned the right to be in the conversation, hasn't he, after last season? But I think Downing will know. He's 36 years old. He's come into the squad late on after being a free transfer, so there's an element of getting up to speed. You've got the likes of Joe Rothwell and Lewis Holtby and Bradley Johnson putting in good performances. Downing will know that as well. But on the flip side, Mowbray will know what Stuart Downing brings. And I think that Millwall game was a really good one to bring up, Joe. That game's on a knife edge, and we need someone to have the confidence and the experience to go and do something. And I think it was Joe Rothwell who did the initial drive forward into that final third. And then Downing thought, right, here we go. I'm going to grab the game and drove into that box a little bit, didn't he? And that chance came from there. And that's what experience brings you. And these stats from last season, when you consider who was in this division last season, in the likes of Ben Rama, Matthias Pereira at West Brom, and then some of the Leeds players, maybe Calvin Phillips or Helder Costa, someone like that, those stats are pretty impressive with some of the company that he's come against. So to have the likes of Stuart Downing coming off the bench is a real luxury for Rovers. And I'm sure that if performances start to dip and the midfielders don't start contributing, Downing will come more and more into the conversation, and we will look at Downing as someone who can come into that midfield three, absolutely. But Downing's a model pro and Mowbray's a realistic manager, and they've clearly got a good relationship, and both of them will know the role that they're going to play this season. And if it is less minutes, I think Downing ultimately will be satisfied with that, because he's going to play his part one way or the other.
And Alex, I'll just pick up on a comment here. Option to play Downing on the left to help Bell or Douglas move Elliott central. Do you think that's viable? Is there anywhere outside of central midfield you can see him playing? Do you think he can fill in at left back or on the left wing?
If you'd have asked me this question last season, or if we were in the situation that we've historically played under Mowbray, I would have probably said yes. But I think with the move to the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-2-2, as Joe likes to point out sometimes, that there's a lot more demand on the fullbacks and there's a lot more demanded during the game on the fullbacks. And I do feel that you'd be asking Downing to perform a role that isn't best suited to perform in. I think I'd say, although he did feel in quite capably at left back on occasion last season, was usually where there was an injury. And I just think this season you look at the fullback areas and you think, well, Douglas is a good defender. He's a lot younger, and he's had a promotion in the division. And I was pretty exposed on the fan side. The reason for that is just that you need to be very good.
Oh, okay. I think we just lost Alex there. I think we could tell the internet was going there a bit, I think. I thought it was just me for a while, but
I think
just 1 second, Alex. We've lost you there.
Have you got me back?
I think we've got you back. We did start to lose you a bit. I don't know. I think we missed a bit of what you were saying there, but try and summarise for us if we've got you.
Yeah, so I'll just summarise by saying that in this system that we're playing, the fullbacks, there's a lot required of them, and I believe that Downing in this system you wouldn't be using his attributes as well as you could. I think his best attributes are in the centre of the pitch, playing that Holtby role of spreading the ball around the park at pace, accurate passing to supply the front three, and I think that's the role that we should utilise him in.
Yeah. I mean, Gaza's made a comment here. I agree with the rotation and resting players. If I was Holtby and I was rested today against the top of the league team, I'd be fuming. Yeah, I mean, he came off in the last game and probably wouldn't have felt like he had his best game so far this season. In the last one, I think he was quite quiet, and I don't know if that's perhaps the way the opposition nullified him or that he was just quiet, obviously, and it is hard to tell. And yeah, I think much like Downing, Holtby probably has earned the right to say, I need to be playing all the time. And I suppose whether he plays or he doesn't play, we're going to find out, because if he doesn't play and we can do it without him, then we know that we're not as reliant on him as we might have first thought. And if he doesn't play and we struggle, then maybe we bring him straight back in. The good thing at the minute, of course, is that there's games every couple of days, every few days, and we can kind of try things. The likelihood is today, just to go back to most of our 11s, if we quickly peek at Ryan's there, Ayala and Lenihan, Alex, Ayala and Lenihan, Jacob went for Ayala and Lenihan as well. The likelihood is that whoever we get, we're probably going to see a brand new centre-back partnership, or at least a new centre-back partnership that we've not seen for a while. And probably this season, I don't really think we've had back-to-back games with the same defence in play. And I think that probably has a long-term effect. So when we talk about Downing, as you were just talking there, Alex, and slotting people in, I think we've really got to find a settled back four or back five if you're including the goalkeeper. So we've talked Stuart Downing there. Do let us know in the comments what you think on Stuart Downing, and thanks to everybody who did get involved in that quick conversation. And obviously we talked Lewis Holtby there as well. So I want to move on now, and we'll come away from the graphics and move more to some opinion stuff. I want to talk about expectations, really. A little while ago, we talked about this 12-game run up into Christmas, which we're obviously well into now. God, I can't believe how near Christmas is. And we are where we are, and we've got a game today. Our expectations something we've got to manage. Can we go into a game against Norwich, where they are in the league, and with the manager and the players and the experience they've got, and actually expect a win? What do you think, Luke?
I don't think there's any reason why we can't expect a win. Norwich are a side that they are up there, but they've had a tendency to drop points in certain games. It's the games come thick and fast. It's already been noted in the comments, and he didn't play in midweek either. That Tim Krul's injured, so I think Michael McGovern, a great keeper, obviously, very experienced at international level as well, and probably finds himself disappointed, a bit unfortunate to not have played more games at Norwich. But Krul is a fantastic keeper, and that says it all. So I think if Adam Armstrong's firing on all cylinders today and can maybe test that out early doors, then there's the opportunity there. But yes, Norwich have got fantastic players. You need to look at Emi Buendia, Stiepermann, who scored against us the last time we played them when they were promoted that day, actually live on Sky, I believe. Timu Pukki's an obvious one. So Grant Hanley, who's a very experienced defender, as we all know very well. They're a good side. They will cause us problems, but this Blackburn Rovers side's a good side. We've got talent. We've talked about strength in depth. We've talked about individual talent as well, in the likes of Harvey Elliott, Adam Armstrong, Lewis Holtby. So we've got players that can unlock defences and players that can cause problems. I think the key to it is going to be, like it has been in most of our games, is starting on the front foot and starting quickly. We saw it against Brentford. We started really well when we just dictated the play and tried to, keep possession in attacking thirds and push on a little bit rather than, negative possession, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Really get some early chances in and just test this Norwich side out. We haven't beaten in a championship fixture, I believe, in recent years. We had a lot of joy against them in the Premier League, but it just shows that they're a good championship side in Norwich. They didn't do great in the Premier League in the recent visit there, but they are a good championship side. They've been promoted, and they've kept obviously a lot of their players. So start early, start on the front foot, and we shouldn't be going into games with a negative approach. I think this Blackburn team's a good team. This Mowbray squad that he's built is a good squad, and there's potential that we we can beat teams like this, and we shouldn't be expecting to drop points in games against Norwich just because they're Norwich City, we're Blackburn Rovers. So.
Ryan, I mean, it is a tough one. I think Rovers as a club and as a fan base, probably since we were relegated from the Premier League, we've always, I think, felt like we deserve to be somewhere different to where we are, and especially that year in League One. Is it fair to expect those players to beat Norwich today, or is it more hope and go into it with positive attitude? But, you know, if we don't win, they're a good side.
So expecting a win, I don't think we should be expecting a win, but what we should be expecting is a performance. We've all spoken about we're arguably in our strongest position that we've been since relegation from the Premier League. The strength and depth that Luke spoke about. We've got the Championship's top goal scorer. We've got a manager that we've had for 4 years. We've got stability on and off the pitch. We've got all of the components there to be a very good side at this level. So I think every game we should be expecting a performance at least. And we should be expecting to imprint our way of playing, our attacking philosophy on every game that we play. That's what we should expect as a minimum with where we're at now. Turning that into a win, of course, that's a different ball game altogether. Every game in the Championship is hard, as we know. Norwich are going to bring a completely different threat to what Barnsley did in the home game previous, to what Nottingham Forest did. You know, every team is different, and we're going to have to find a way today. And I think Luke is absolutely right. We've got to approach this game as we've got the armoury ourselves, we've got the attacking threats ourselves, we've got the possession-based football ourselves. There's no reason to fear Norwich City today, but absolutely we will respect Norwich City with the players that they've got, and that's the difference. So expecting a win, no. Expecting a performance, yes. I want Rovers to compete against every side, because I do look at every side in this division, and I don't see why we can't perform against them. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree there. I'm just going to really quickly plug our upcoming project, which I put on the screen here. We've got the Big Fat Rovers quiz for 2020 on the 23rd of December at 7 p.m. And for those of you that haven't heard much about it, we've got some awesome guests lined up. We're going to have Jacob from Lancs Live, Rich Sharp from the Lancashire Telegraph. Ian is going to be representing the BRFCS forums, and Luke is going to be representing the Rovers Chat contingency on home turf in our festive quiz. So running a little bit like a panel show, and we've got some special guest surprises as well. So current players at the club, we've got Elliot Bennett and loads more to be announced. We've also got some of the Rovers ladies players involved, and we've got loads more things to come. Some former players as well, whose names we're not going to reveal. You'll have to tune in. And this is going to be available exclusively live in full. There will be an edited version available after the fact, but if you want to catch the whole thing and all of the nice Christmas messages, you'll need to watch live, and we'll be raising money for the Salvation Army in Blackburn via a Just Giving link, and that's what it's all in aid of. So, yeah, come and join us when we do that. We'll be live just like we are now on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Okay, now that we've got that plug out of the way, Alex, I'm going to come to you on the talking point that we're currently on. Can we expect anything today, or against a side like this, do we have to be more hopeful and positive?
I think Ryan and Luke have covered it quite well. You can't expect to win every game in this league. It's such a tough league. There's so many obstacles in your way. Even on Wednesday night, we played well and didn't win. So there's always the chance that even if you play well, there's a bit of bad luck, a bad refereeing decision, and you don't win the game. So you've got to always take that into account. I think what we can expect is to go into every home game this season planning to win, hoping to win, setting up to win. And if we don't win every game, so be it. But we've got to be in the position as a club now, as we carry on making progress, as we have done over the past 2 or 3 years, to get into a position where, at least in every home game, I would say, that there is a bit of expectation. You know, Mowbray himself was the one in the media recently that raised the expectations by saying, you know, we want to be competing for the top 6 this season. You know, that's not me saying it in my deluded self. That's the manager saying that, and the manager said, bring on the expectation. So in some ways, he's almost egging the fans on in a way in that regard. You know, we can kind of build that expectation up in these games and hope to win. I think I do get hit sometimes for being negative. I agree. I am not the most positive Rovers fan in the world. I'll acknowledge that 100%. But I think it comes more from a I think it comes more from a position of wanting the club to do really well and setting high standards of the club, I think, and just being so desperate for the club to do well that you do get upset when things don't go as you would wish. And I think that expresses itself in a bit more pessimism than perhaps is healthy. So my summary of today would be, you can't expect to win every game in this division. It would be just stupidity to do that. But what we can expect is, as Ryan said, trying to win the game, setting up to win the game, showing Norwich the respect that they deserve, but also displaying our threats and trying to hurt them with our threats. And I think on occasion, we've kind of veered between being a bit too respectful of the opposition, maybe in previous seasons at home. And then whereas I think maybe earlier this season, we were perhaps a bit too cavalier, where we just had no respect for the opposition. And I think both approaches have their merits and have their disadvantages. And I think we need to sort of find that middle ground where we respect the opposition's strengths, but we also try and look to hurt them with our strengths as well. And I hope that today that we can get to that point. I think if you want to get in the top 6 at the end of the season, we are going to have to beat a good side along the way. We can't keep saying, oh, well, one day we will beat a good side. We have to do it at some point. And up till now, unfortunately, the stats say that we haven't been able to do that. That's just a fact. So we are due a win against a good side, and I hope it's today.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, Luke, do you buy into this kind of rhetoric at the minute, which I feel like has been egged on by Sky Sports from our last game about, Rovers and not beating a top 6 team? And do you think that's purely just coincidental based off who we've played and who's been available at the time? Or do you read into that and think that we do have a problem there?
I don't think it's so much a problem. I agree with what you're saying there, actually. I think it is more coincidental. When we were looking at this, as you said at the start of the stream, when we were looking at the 12 matches as we sort of summed them up, the early matches in that were tough games. Like I know you don't class Preston as a top 6 team, but that is a tough game. They're a local rival. They're chipping away at the playoffs every season. Yeah, granted they fell off the wagon a bit last season, and I'm not here to plug Preston North End. So, but it's like Ryan said, and Alex alluded to as well. Every game in the Championship's a tough game, and any of these sides can be chipping away at the top 6 at any given point. Brentford, for example, brilliant side. We've now drawn against them the last 2 times we've played them, and I think to go to Brentford and pick up any points is a good result in itself. If we pick up a bit of momentum, which is the main thing, I think for any team to get out of this division, they've got to have spirit. They've got to have a good team morale, and they've got to have that momentum going into it. I feel like I'm just plugging East Lancashire rivals here, but I'm going to say a naughty word and say Burnley. But they're prime examples of how you get out of this division when they went on that run with Joey Barton in the side, and they were just picking points up week in, week out. It didn't look like they were going to get beat at any point, and just go on and run a games like that. And if we were to play, in Norwich, for example, or Watford, or Bournemouth, in a run of games where we've got that momentum and we've got players fit, like you said, there's no reason why we can't put in a performance and then potentially, beat sides like that. And I think it's down to luck, it's down to time, and it's run of games. There's so many influences, outside influences, that unfortunately impact you as a Championship club, because unfortunately it's one of the most challenging leagues in the world, and it's a very, very difficult league to get out of once you're in it. And for that reason, that's why I think these games are tough games.
Ryan, I'm going to name 2 teams now before I ask you this question, and that's going to be Brentford and Swansea. Over the years, I've always felt like the teams that play football and that press high and play attractively and potentially kind of don't play like your Burnleys of the world and your Neil Warnocks of the world, I always find that it never really happens for them. And it's usually, you have to be as good as a Leeds were last season playing that kind of football to get anywhere near promotion. And the sides that end up going up are the sides that just organise themselves, win 1-0 every week. And it's not that entertaining to watch, but it kind of works. And we talked about Burnley. And I think in some ways, like when Norwich went up, it wasn't particularly pretty. It was get the ball to Pukki, defend well. You know, we see that with their very German style midfield and quite robust nature. Do you think it's kind of like unrealistic for us to expect Rovers to get promoted playing the way we're playing, given that it's quite uncommon that teams play this way and do go up?
I don't think it's unrealistic. I think with some of the clubs that you've mentioned there, Leeds and other clubs like that, I think all of these clubs that go up have the benefit of having settled, stable sides. So that Leeds side that went up had 15 or 16 players that played every week. That Burnley side that went up, it was 15 or 16 players that went up. You need that little bit of luck with injuries. You need your back four that's pretty much playing week in, week out. You need a goal scorer that you can rely on in Teemu Pukki. You need fullbacks that can go forward like Jamal Lewis and Max Aarons. These are all components to the side that you need week in, week out. If we look at Rovers this season, the defence has just been all over the shop because of injuries. We've not got our talisman in the midfield three or wherever he's going to play. That's been chopped and changed a lot. And we've got really lucky so far with Adam Armstrong. But if he was to get injured, that's going to be a component out of our side. So I think that the way we're playing is good and we should play our way because that's Mowbray's philosophy. We're enjoying it. We're scoring goals. The bit we just need to go our way now is just to get a settled 11 so that when we're doing these pre-stream shows, that's actually a non-conversation because it's the same 11 that is going to be the one that is the best. That's where I think it's crucial for Rovers. Whether that's going to happen in a season like this with all the injuries, etc., is obviously another thing. But the other clubs are going to have that as well. So this is where the squad depth element comes in. So who are you bringing in to replace those players? But for me, I'd happily have any six in front of a settled back four. If we can get a back four playing week in, week out with Kaminsky in goal, then I think we're on to a winner there with what we've got in that attacking third.
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much most of what you're saying there, Ryan, and I think there's quite a bit of agreement amongst our viewers. There's quite a lot of you watching along and only a few of you commenting. Get your comments in. We love to hear from you guys. We always look for a comment of the week, and sometimes the things that you say spark further debate for us. Alex, I'm just going to come to you on something that Ryan touched on there, which is injuries. We've moaned and groaned about our issues, and Dizzy Thumbs makes a comment there about getting away with a point and no injuries today. But I think Norwich have had it perhaps even worse than us. Is it pretty impressive that they're doing so well despite their injuries?
It is very impressive. I think we have complained, haven't we, quite extensively on these streams about Rovers and our injury troubles. And I think it's been more the fact that it seems to be concentrated in specific areas. So the fact that we've changed our back for 10 times already this season is just not conducive to developing the sort of relationships that you need to get that solid defence in order to keep the ball out the back of the net. And you just cannot do that. I think what Norwich have done, I think they're a classic yo-yo club between Premier League and Championship, a bit like Rotherham are between the Championship and League One. They seem to have a group of players that are slightly too good for this league, but maybe aren't quite good enough for the Premiership. And they seem to be in that middle ground where they keep transitioning between the two. And I think really you've just seen a continuation of that this season. I think the reality is you look at a lot of the squads in this league and, you know, when we talk about, you know, do Rovers have a chance of the top six or not? I look at a lot of the squads that we're playing against when I look at the teams on match day. And I really have to say, I don't think I'm being biased when I say this, but there's not many squads I would rather have than Rovers' squad. And I think Norwich probably fall into one of the categories where you would rather have their group of players just due to their experience and quality. But you cannot. I don't think you can be surprised really that Norwich find themselves where they are. I think most clubs have had big injuries this season, but I think what we've seen is that the clubs that have had the deepest squads and the squads with the highest amount of quality have been the clubs that have been able to cope with the circumstances the best. And it's no surprise that you look at the table and Bournemouth and Norwich, two of the clubs with the deepest squads packed with the most quality, are where they are in the division at the end of the day.
Luke, just whilst we're touching on Norwich here, we had a question quite a while back from Callum. Will the physicality of Ayala and Lenihan match up well with a striker like Pukki? And I picked this question out because we have to touch on Pukki, and you know he's done pretty well this year, but we know from a couple of years ago just how well this man can do. Is he the only one we need to worry about? And when we're talking about him in general, you know, what can you do to combat that?
He's absolutely not the only person to be wary of in that Norwich side. That they're a quality attacking side. You need to look at players like Vranic, Emi Buendia, for example, to hold on to players like that and throw Teemu Pukki into that as a trio as well. It is a feat in itself, isn't it? Well, I mean, us as Blackburn Rovers fans are, crying out to hold on to our players like Armstrong and Dak, and feel very privileged to have players like that in our squad. And I mean, maybe because of the summer we find ourselves in, and players haven't been being moved on as such. Bournemouth in a similar situation, for example. But yeah, not the only player to be wary of, but just how he plays, Pukki. He plays off the last man. He's very, I actually think it's a good division for him. This when you consider VAR in the Premier League, just because of how he plays, and he might just get a little bit fortunate with the toenail offside job that we have in the Premiership now. So he's going to find himself in and amongst goals in the Premier League. Experience heads is how you deal with a player like Teemu Pukki, to try and maybe catch him offside, for example, will be a really silly move. I expect Mowbray, when he said midweek that defensive partnership picks itself, I expect that what he's saying there is it is Ayala and it is Lenihan, because they are experienced heads, and it's going to take their physicality and experience to deal with a player like Pukki. But you've got to be wary of their other attacking threats as well. I think if we play a system where we try and just limit Pukki's opportunity, we'll just allow space for other players to have a lot of joy today. So I think it's managing the game, managing Norwich as a team as well, and just using experienced heads to get the job done defensively.
Alex, I'm just going to quickly come to you on a question that we've had here from Brandon, mainly because obviously, he says, what's your thoughts on giving Davenport a chance today? Well, obviously, from before in your team, you put Davenport in there. We touched on it slightly, but whilst Brandon's asked about it, I will just ask you to come back to that one on Davenport and what he can bring to the midfield, just to answer that specific question.
I think with Davenport, what I looked at was a real need to find other options other than Bradley Johnson, because I think we're in a situation where it seems like it's almost Bradley Johnson or nothing, and the midfield doesn't function as well as it does when he's not in the team. And so Davenport, just due to the fact that he's had so many injuries and just not been given a chance yet, and whenever he has been given any minutes in the team, he's looked more than capable of filling in that role. It made me think that today, with the need to freshen the midfield up, that I'd go with Davenport. And ultimately, I think Brandon's question alludes to the fact that is there a bit of trepidation around playing him today against Norwich, who are certainly one of the best sides in this league? I think there is, but I think you only find out if he's good enough by playing him. You only find that out, but with all these players, we only find out about Harvey Elliott or Joe Rothwell or Stuart Downing or Barry Douglas. We only find out about these players by actually playing them and see how they do. So I know it's a big game. I know it's a hard game today, but I think he's capable of performing at the level we need. And I suppose you'll have to come back to me at 5 p.m. and tell me how stupid I was if it doesn't go too well and he gets played by Mowbray. But I hope that doesn't come to pass.
I'm just going to ask everybody that's watching now. We're going to move on to score predictions soon from our panel. But what I'll do, because we know there's a bit of a delay, I'll ask you guys to get yours in now, and we'll try and go through them in the next 5-10 minutes or so. So give us a score prediction, maybe someone you think might get a goal today, and why you're optimistic or pessimistic. And soon we'll be doing our own score predictions too, and I'll get Ryan, Alex and Luke's thoughts on the upcoming game. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll have our live reaction to the team news. We usually get it just as you get it. We've not got any insider knowledge, so yeah, that'll be fun too. So let us know what you think, and obviously, as FMW's already done, let us know what you think about Alex's pick for Davenport in midfield. Ryan, Alex just quickly mentioned a player there that I think we have to talk about because I think he is so crucial this year. Joe Rothwell. We've not picked up on him today. We did pick up on him in the last game. He can do so much for us in a game. And what do you think we can see from him today, Ryan?
It's going to be a really interesting midfield area today with their attacking options, the likes of Cantwell and Wendier and Stiepermann, you know, all of those. They're quality footballers. He might not have as much time on the ball as he's been used to in recent games. You know, Rovers have had a lot of possession. This is arguably the game where we might have the least possession. So what we're going to need Rothwell to do today is go and grab that ball for us, go and get on the ball, go and drive forward, go and take an ownership of the game and really drive us up that pitch and get us into Norwich's third of the pitch. Particularly if it ends up like a game like the Barnsley game where they were pinning us in and they were pressing us. We're reliant on Rothwell to drive us forward. And without Ben Brereton, who can obviously drive it down that left-hand side when he's available, I think there's a real onus on Rothwell doing that today. Possibly Nyambi as well, fighting fire with fire a little bit down that right-hand side to obviously cut off the left-hand side for them. So, yeah, I think that's what we need from Rothwell, just to show some... He's going to be the one to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, show that ownership in midfield and get Rovers up the pitch, because I do think there will be those spells where Norwich put us under some real pressure and Rothwell's the man who I'm looking to get us up.
Yeah, and I think as George, whose comment we just put on screen, has alluded to, I think Brentford has to be the model for this game, doesn't it? Because I think not just for the way that the teams play, but the quality that Brentford have and that Norwich have. And within that first minute at Brentford, we'd had 2 shots on goal and 1 a corner. I think we have got to start on the front foot, really. And we've got to move forward on the ball. And I think I'll be worried if we do have too much possession. I like it when we kind of press high and kind of battle for the ball without the ball, if that makes sense, and kind of defend right from the front. So, yeah, I mean, we've got loads of comments coming in, obviously. So, Ryan Lambert here, 2-2 for me. Field decision-making in midfield could be crucial today. They'll punish schoolboy errors. And we kind of touched on that, really. That's where that half Premier League, half Championship quality comes in. You know, you make a mistake and they're more likely to capitalise than, you know, a Derby County or somebody else of a more settled Championship ilk. And Leapyear Man says we should play without fear today against top of the league. Need to play to our strengths and not theirs. Absolutely. I think there's certain teams where, you know, you've got to think about the way you're playing because of the way they play. And then there's certain games where you don't need to worry about the way they play at all. Dizzy Thumbs is going negative today. Don't blame you, mate. This is going to be a tough game. It says 2-3 to Norwich. I think this might be a game where we get more Rovers loss predictions than perhaps any other game. Luke, do you think that might actually favour us being the underdogs in the game?
Yeah, because we started the season so well, and then you look at all sorts of platforms. You mentioned Sky, been badgering on about Rovers and Quest, for example. There's been talk about how Rovers have the dark horses of the league and how we're looking the finished products and all sorts of things like that, and pressure builds then, doesn't it, because you built up to full heavy. It'd be nice now to be in a position where we are playing as an underdog, because it's been a little while since we've done that. I think that'll allow us to maybe get a little bit more freedom. What Ryan touched upon with Ben Brereton, I think we've really missed Ben Brereton in recent games. And if any Rovers fan can sit here at this point and say that in December of 2020 we'd be crying out that we're missing Ben Brereton, I think they'd be lying. But back in the last season and this season, he has been such an important player for Blackburn. And I think that left area today is going to be an area that maybe we need to exploit, similar to what Ryan was saying, if we're going to get any joy. Because he's a very experienced player in Max Aarons. He's one of them that's is he a Premier League? Well, he's certainly a Premier League player. Shouldn't be a Championship player, but bouncing in between the leagues. And he likes to attack as well. So we need someone to work back and have some joy there. But good strong side, good players, and inevitably we are the underdog. So we just go on, play with a bit of freedom, enjoy yourselves. Like you say, you mentioned it, Joe. Attack early, get on the front foot. Maybe not enjoy all of the ball, but exploit the space when it comes, because Norwich are attacking side, and there's going to be moments in that game where there's areas to exploit, and as an underdog, that's how you play, don't you?
Yeah, definitely, and some agreement with you there on Ben Brereton. I think we're all really happy and pleasantly surprised with Ben, and I really think we're missing him. Probably missing him more than perhaps Dak at the minute, because Ben's so crucial to this formation. I was really happy actually with the Bristol City game. Gallagher, it was only once, but he did make a very Ben Brereton-esque run on that left-hand side after winning it back deep, having beaten a couple of men, and we won a corner from that, and it was a really nice move. And I think the more that Gallagher can grow into that Brereton role, obviously the better. Ryan Lambert, quick comment here before we move on to your guys' score predictions. Can't afford for Armour to take 10 plus wild shots today. Need to be cuter in the final third. We touched on this in our post-match stream after the game. Obviously, quite a lot of different opinions on it. Some of us kind of said, well, he's earned the right to have those goals on goal, and perhaps there wasn't any better options on, but quite a bit of agreement with Ryan there that we've got to be a little bit more clinical. And I think most sides in the division, even Norwich, who are sat top, would probably say, yeah, we need to be even more clinical, because everybody wants to keep improving. Now, with 5 minutes until team news, I'm now going to ask my panel here, Ryan, Alex and Luke, what they think today's score is going to be. If you've not already got your score prediction in the comments, then do. We will show it up on screen. And if it's mental, then we'll call you an idiot. Okay, so Ryan, what's your score prediction today? Players that you think might play well, and why?
Yeah, my score prediction is 2-2, so I'm feeling quite similar to this game as I did last week against Brentford. I think it's going to be two teams that will go for each other, be looking for possession of the football, looking to attack. When I did on the other side last night, they're looking forward to playing against a side that's not going to sit back. We know that Rovers aren't going to do that. We're going to fight fire with fire in that sense. I think it's got the makings of a really good game. And that midfield area, as we've touched on, is going to be the crucial part of the pitch. So we're going to need some quality in there. In terms of players who I think are going to play well, Rothwell, we've just spoken on. I think it's critical. Rothwell has a good game for us today, particularly if we are struggling to get the ball and we are pinned in a little bit by Norwich. We need him to drive us up that pitch. I've already touched on that. And obviously, we need a big performance from Adam Armstrong. We just lost Alex there. That put me off. We need a big performance from Adam Armstrong. It came up on the comments just there about the 10 wild shots. He'll be disappointed with his night's activity against Bristol City. He'll be keen to put that right. And very similar to what Luke was describing Timu Pukki as. Armstrong's a similar type of striker, isn't he, off that shoulder, and he needs to be giving Grant Hanley a problem, and Zimmerman, I think, is the other centre-back a problem. He needs to really be getting in behind. So Rothwell and Armstrong are the two that I'm looking towards to have performances for us today. But yeah, 2-2, good game. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, you've heard Ryan's thoughts there. Let us know if you think Ryan's an idiot. And we'll move on and see whether Luke is an idiot or not. Luke, what are you going for today?
There's going to be a lot of people calling me an idiot, I think. So, I actually think there's 4 goals in this game as well.
Right.
But I think Rovers win this game 3-1. My reason for thinking that is I do think that we'll start on the front foot. I do think we'll attack early. And I think it's exactly the way I saw the Brentford game going, to be honest. I thought that we'd get the early goal and we kick on. Unfortunately, circumstances in that game changed it. I think it's going to be a similar game, and I just hope that we get the second goal early. Don't sit in. Hopefully, when the game's 2-0, I see us conceding at some point just because of their attacking threat and some of the quality that they possess. But I absolutely think Adam Armstrong's due a goal now. You could see he was a frustrated figure on Saturday. Midweek, and he was, firing all sorts of shots in, like we have discussed. Hopefully hopefully he gets a couple of them on target today, because, like I said, McGovern's not played a lot of football, and there's the opportunity for Armour to get his goals today. I think it'll done him some good, because I think Mowbray will have sat down. Oh, here we go, cornflakes, happy days.
Yeah,
they were just cornflakes. They were just cornflakes. Come back at 5 and we'll have a discussion. But no, I think I think it's going to have done him good, because Mowbray has sat down to Armour and told him exactly, what his opinion is of Adam Armstrong, and we all know he's a great player. He's going to score goals. Great comment
of the day so far there with the Kaminsky goal. I'll be really honest and say that in our predictions league, I've gone for a Nyambe goal today. I'm just really feeling it, but I can't see Kaminsky happening. Let's go think Ollie might be a bit of an idiot there.
Joe, I want to give Ryan Lambert a word of warning for calling Luke Kimberley out in that way. This is the guy that predicted 3-0 Rovers away at Preston, so just be careful.
It's coming. Let's all be joyous. Merry Christmas. Oh, what fun it is to see the Rovers win at home.
With a minute to team news, I'm just going to quickly get Alex's, and you can kind of tell us all about your prediction whilst I quickly scramble to get the team news onto our banner at the bottom. So what are you going for and why, mate?
Oh, God. I've looked at this game. I've looked at our past form against Norwich. It's not very good. I think we've lost the last 3 home games against them in a row, which doesn't bode very well to me. So I'm afraid to say I'm going to go with a 2-1 defeat today. I think we'll score early. I think we'll come out of the traps pretty well. But I think as they exert themselves on the game, I think the pressure will tell as the game goes on. And I think they may edge it 2-1, I'm afraid.
I think by all the buzzing in the background there,
team news is on.
onto our devices, and it will be scrolling across the bottom. Very, very.
Get the ticker going.
So, I mean, it's an interesting team, and I'm going to get it up there now. I'm just going to make sure I've got it right before I do, because I don't want any mistakes. But I think I have. So, team news is scrolling on the bottom now. We've got Thomas Kaminsky in goal, Ryan Nyambe, Darragh Lenihan in his right centre-back slot. It's Derek Williams at centre-back, not Daniel Ayala. I knew I'd make a mistake. It's Derek Williams playing with Darragh Lenihan, not Daniel Ayala. I will change it. Douglas at left-back, Holtbeat, Johnson and Rothwell in midfield, and Elliott, Armstrong and Gallagher. So, Ryan, your first reaction to that team news?
First and foremost, mistakes happen. Joe, you're doing a cracking job of hosting.
Look how quickly I rectified it. Eh?
There you go. So don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing a good job. So that's all good. First reaction, I'm happy with that. And I think, like you said, we went for Ayala and Lenihan because we thought that they're the two that Mowbray likes the best. I like the fact that he's gone for the left side and the right side. So I'm happy with that. Williams has shown his worth and he's a quality centre-back for us. So, again, like the Bristol City game, it just looks like a side that's got a lot of balance, a lot of options. The bench looks pretty decent to make some changes if we need to. So, yeah, I'm feeling happy with that side. And I think, the left side, Williams, right side, Lenihan, that's a nice one for us to solve, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pleased in some ways because it means that even if an injury occurs today to one of those centre-backs, we know that Ayala won't be injured because he's just sat on the bench, unless Joe Rothwell and somehow hurt his back whilst not playing or whatever. Then, luckily it means that going into our next game, we will have a centre-back partnership, unless we get really unlucky and two get injured, which, given recent luck, it's not that unrealistic. Ollie's asking whether he is an idiot. I think with your Thomas Kaminsky goal prediction, you probably are. But if he does manage to get a goal, then I don't know. We'll have to think of a forfeit there. Maybe I'll have to donate some money to the charity for the festive quiz. I can't see it happening though. I can't see Thomas Kaminsky getting a goal. But I tell you
what,
it
would be fantastic.
Joe's doing a post match in his underpants.
If Kaminsky does score, that is probably the greatest prediction in footballing history. Because the chances that occurs are just so slim. But you never know. It's quite windy. It's quite wet. So We will see. It will be a very interesting post-match.
Don't say that, Joe. I want Kaminsky coming up and banging in a header from a corner, not just kicking it long and it going over his head.
Isn't he more likely to whip in a ball from the left wing and like Ayala to get on the end of it with a header, something like that?
He's exactly the keeper they expect to just go on some mazy run, pick the ball up, and then just turn around like some kind of cancer. Oh, it could be good.
I think Callum Robinson's being a bit mean here, but he says Jason Lowe scored for us before, so it's possible. I really hope
a good goal that as well.
It was a good goal.
Or any of his family members aren't watching and take offence to that one. Michael Pearson with a really interesting comment just before we do wrap things up. He says, Ayala unlucky not to start. He's been a real leader in 2 very difficult away games. I do agree with this. And whilst I wanted Williams in my side, and outside of Holtby Downing, this is basically the side that I wanted. I do think that Ayala could probably feel slightly aggrieved. I'm sure Mowbray will have spun it as, look, we need you all fit and I'm going to keep rotating you around. But Mowbray talked about, we've got a very clear defensive partnership and here we are with Lenihan and Williams. So maybe that's where his thought process is at. What do you reckon, Alex? Do you think it's unfair on Ayala or?
I think what we've seen with Ayala so far is obviously, I think we all know that he is injury prone, that he is known to maybe miss, 2-3 months out with what seem to be minor niggly injuries. And I do get the impression that Mowbray wants to find a formula that he believes that he can stick with for a period of matches. And I'm unsure whether going with Ayala and Lenihan now as like the long-term option, I think we'd probably find ourselves in the position more than likely that we would be needing to be chopping and changing it around once again in 2 or 3 games. And I think once again, we'd be coming on here repeating ourselves about how many defensive changes were made this season and just how it's had a detrimental impact on the team and the shape. So I do understand why he's gone with Williams today. I actually believe Williams has been our best centre-back this season. That might be a controversial thing to say, but I think in my opinion, I think he's been by far our best centre-back this season. So I've got no qualms about the decision he's made. And unfortunately, it looks like Kaminsky's going to score an overhead kick at some point. That'd be a pretty... I wonder what the odds are on that. And
somebody needs to find out for us before we wrap up in a couple of minutes whether you can find any odds on Kaminsky to get a goal. I reckon we could win some form of award if as a panel and as a stream we manage to predict that.
Luke's got the crystal ball, so we need to confide in him whether it's going to happen or not.
I'm afraid I can't see it today, but
oh, there you go.
But
don't put your bet on then.
But we've beat Preston 3-0 this season, so anything can happen.
Yeah, so come in. Yeah, that's realistic.
Oh God.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly rattle off the Norwich team news and try not to absolutely butcher some of the names on there. So, like you said, McGovern in net, Max Aarons, who we know about, Grant Hanley, captain of the side. 4 years after leaving, it's his first actual appearance against us. Zimmerman alongside him, Sorensen at left back. The interesting one is that Alex Tetty comes in to replace Stiepermann, who I think is probably, for me, outside of Pukki, one of their most important players. So interesting that he doesn't play. I don't know if that's something that's injury related, Ryan. I don't know if that got brought up yesterday with you on the other side.
He apparently Stiepermann's not been playing too well this season. Actually, he's not hit the levels as he did in the previous season. So he did actually predict Stiepermann might not play. So yeah, that's come true. Yeah,
really interesting. Obviously, we know about Buendia, who's on the right hand side, and Martin on the left. Vrancic in behind Pukki, and there's also Skip, who I think was he former Spurs player?
Tottenham, yeah.
Or is he
they are absolutely salivating over Ollie Skip. They love him. They think he's a great player.
Yeah. Is he on loan or is he there permanently? I actually don't know.
I think it's loan. I'll just Google it whilst you're talking.
Yeah. Yeah. For everybody watching, we're by no means experts. We Google everything, really.
It's an incredible front four.
We figure out what we're doing as we go along. So even though this all comes together very well, when Dan's not here, it's basically just cobbled together, isn't it? Listen, before we do finish, thanks to everyone.
He's on loan, Joe.
Bro. We've kind of averaged like 45, 50 people viewing so far for this stream, and that's ace. And I know there's been other options. The 23s are playing at the minute, so yeah, really glad that everyone has managed to join us. If you've not got a score prediction in yet, then do. I will stick it up on the screen. Ollie James says he's not brave enough to predict how Kaminsky scores, but he thinks he will. I wonder if we're counting an own goal. I'm sure.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say that.
So we've seen the team news. We've had a little chat about Norwich as well, and we've gone over some of our talking points. FM Works says that Oliver Skipp's quality, but he's not quite Harvey Elliott, though. Harvey Elliott's someone we didn't really touch on in this stream. He's one of my favourite players. I think he's crucial to the way we play, so I'm glad that he starts again. There's quite a few other players that we haven't really touched on much, but at the end of the day, we've only got an hour and a bit to go over it all. We shall leave you guys be now, and you can go and make yourself a brew, maybe have a bit of lunch, get ready for the game, go and get your iFollow sorted, because I know for a fact that everybody here will be watching through official channels and supporting the club and not illegally streaming. And I know that everybody on the panel will be doing the same as well.
Of course.
Really quickly before we do finish up, I want to remind everybody that we are doing the Big Fat Rovers quiz on the 23rd of December. We've got special guests like Elliot Bennett, some of the Rovers ladies players, some famous Blackburn Rovers supporters, and some special guests that we've not yet named, such as former Rovers players from days gone by. Jacob and Rich from Lancs Live and Lancashire Telegraph will be joining us alongside BRFCS to host and make up the panel, and all of it's going to be in aid of the Salvation Army in Blackburn, so do be sure to get involved. Before we do finish, I want to say thank you to Ryan, Alex and Luke for joining me. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Top
Brilliant,
job.
Joe. Good
Thank
work
you.
on the hosting and the
I tried my best. Thanks very much, Luke. It's been a learning curve, but we've got through it without Dan today. And thanks to everyone who's joined us. And we will be back with a post-match stream after the game. I don't know how we'll be. If Kaminsky scored a goal, then I think it might be the most surreal post-match stream. So we'll see how it goes. Good luck with the game. And before we do finish, we would just like to remind everybody that we are sponsored by 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.